Before we jump into the show, I want to let you guys know that this show is being sponsored by pristineauction.com. They have hundreds of daily auctions with brand new items every single day. Everything is JSA certified, so you know it's all 100% authentic. It's free to join, it's free to bid, and you only pay when you win. Check out pristineauction.com and let them know that you heard about them from Sleeper Wire. That's PRISTINE auction.com. Welcome, everybody, to the Sleeper Wire Weekend Preview. I am your host, Professor Chris, and with me today, once again, Lucky Lucas back on the preview. What's going on, Lucas?
Hey! Excited for the weekend, as always.
As always, and Dirty Jobs. Mike, not behind the scenes this time, on the show. How's it going, dude?
Hey, not too bad. How we doing this evening, guys?
Doing awesome. We're recording this on a Thursday night, right before what I think is going to be the most fun matchups of the season. St. Louis Rams going to have a good game against the Minnesota Vikings. You guys excited?
Absolutely. Because,
Yeah.
you know, these are really powerhouse. These are teams that really have a shot to go far into the season. I think the Rams have a good shot to win it all. The Vikings don't have a terrible chance. They need some consistent play out of Kirk Cousins, but this should be a nice tell.
They've gotten consistent play, I'd say. They just had a bad week.
Yeah, we'll just throw out the game against the worst team in the NFL and just call that a fluke, right?
Yeah, that's it.
I said it last night. I think they were just preparing. They're just waiting for the Los Angeles Rams. That's why they didn't play very good against Buffalo.
Yeah, we're just not going to try. We're just going to take our time here, stay healthy, see you guys Thursday, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep, I think both defenses break down, and it's an offensive shootout. What do you guys think?
Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Well,
yeah.
Everybody will know by the time they're listening to this tomorrow when the show comes out. As we said, welcome back to the weekend preview. Week 4 has begun. Guys, we're almost to the quarter mark in the season already. We've got a great show for you this week. We've got start sit for each matchup. We've got our Flex Those Muscles segment where we talk about different flex guys, and our Streamer Wire segment where we hit you with those streaming quarterback and tight end options. Let's go ahead and jump into the Sunday matchups here. First game of the week, we got Houston Texans traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Deshaun Watson, 385 passing yards and 2 touchdowns last week, getting better every week so far. He's the QB 11 through 3 weeks, which is not where he was being drafted at all. He was being drafted as a quarterback 2 right after Aaron Rodgers. But, you know, better performances each week. That's good to see. How do you guys think he's going to do against the Colts defense, who is not as bad as still some people are saying?
I think that Deshaun Watson's getting back into a rhythm slowly. I think that we see a decent week from him. But like you said, the Colts defense is much better than they are given credit for. There's a lot of negative talk going towards the defensive end of that team over the summer.
Yeah, there was. And I will say the Colts should have won that game last week against the Eagles. But that final drive, I feel like the Colts they gave like 70 defensive penalties to the Eagles on one drive. It was ridiculous. It was like every other play was a 15-yard penalty or something. I don't know. It was stupid, but they played pretty well for the most part. Lamar Miller, on the other hand, only 28 total carries the last 2 weeks. Last year, 10 carries for 10 yards. He did finally get into the end zone through the air, 5 catches for 41 yards and a touchdown. Is he someone that you're interested in playing against the Colts, Mike?
Not really. I think the Colts have actually proven themselves as a pretty formidable defense against the run, especially. Even though he's catching some passes, I don't really like what he's doing. I think Deshaun Watson with Will Fuller is actually a better reason why they're connecting and doing better. I think that's going to open up some DeAndre Hopkins this weekend as well. I don't think it's going to be just this huge explosion of points, but I think those guys will get you a couple touchdowns this weekend.
What about you, Lucas?
Is Deontay Foreman back yet? That's my real question. Because
No, he's not.
Lamar Miller is bad. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
He certainly hasn't been great. I mean, he had a really good week 1, 20 carries, 98 yards, but 10 carries for 10 yards last week is certainly not good. Mike, I do appreciate that you said the Colts have a formidable defense. I would say it's pretty okay.
Yeah,
Just better than people thought.
Just a little bit tougher than people were thinking. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just not this run over, throw over defense that you can just walk by. I mean, they've really shut some teams down as far as the run has gone, especially. So I'm kind of tampering my expectations for Lamar Miller there. He's not my guy.
Let's see. We already talked about Will Fuller a little bit. Let's get back to him in a second. DeAndre Hopkins still a stud. You're going to play him no matter what. Will Fuller, I believe he is back. 8 for 113 yards and a touchdown in week 2. 5 for 101 yards and a touchdown last week. He's averaged 19 total targets the last 2 weeks. Or he's gotten 19 total targets. He hasn't averaged 19. That'd be ridiculous. 9.5 targets the last 2 weeks. And 15.1 air yards per target. So he is definitely going downfield with his speed. He is connecting with Deshaun Watson. And I am playing Will Fuller in every single league I have him in. I believe he's back.
I agree.
Yep, I'll third that motion. I completely agree.
Right.
Will Fuller, like I said, I mean, that's why I think Deshaun Watson's been playing better anyways.
Oh, yeah. Completely agree. Yep. Will Fuller, going to be great. Moving to the Colts side of the ball, Andrew Luck. I am actually benching him in my two quarterback league this week, playing Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger over him. Started off the season pretty great with 319 yards and 2 touchdowns, but only 1 touchdown last week. I like him at home, but I'm not so sure about this week against the Texans. Mike, what do you think?
Actually, as what I just watched Eli Manning do to the Texans, I'm actually pretty high on Andrew Luck this week. I think he has himself a 3-touchdown week. As a matter of fact, I think he's going to throw the ball. I think T.Y. Hilton's actually going to get 2 touchdowns.
I would be thrilled about that. Well, speaking of T.Y. Hilton, is he a trade target for you, Lucas? A lot of owners are down on him, even though he was actually pretty good the first 2 weeks. Got a touchdown each week, only 5 for 50 last week. He's just not the T.Y. Hilton that we saw with Andrew Luck back in 2016. Do you still think people are kind of down on him? The average depth of target just 8.1 yards so far. Is he someone you're kind of targeting?
I think that we'll see T.Y. Hilton become more productive as we see Luck's confidence grow in himself, and he starts taking more shots downfield. So I think that this is the perfect time to go after T.Y. Hilton because his value is much lower right now than what it was at the beginning of the season.
And let's once again play the Colts tight end tango, Eric Ebron or Jack Doyle.
Ebron.
It's going to be Ebron for me rest of the season.
Yep, Ebron for me as well. Moving on to the second game. Bills at Packers, the powerhouse Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, 3 total touchdowns last week, 2 on the ground as the Bills absolutely upset the Vikings in Minnesota. Probably not going to continue. Right, Mike, even though you are a huge Josh Allen fan?
I think you're crazy. He's going to throw 5 this week.
Heard it
Disclaimer,
here first.
I might not believe that even myself. No, I think he'll come back to earth.
Funny. I hope you say that on the Blitz this Sunday.
By the way, this is why he usually produces, is because of calls like that.
Right. No, but really, he'll come back down to earth. I just really think that was more about Minnesota's game plan for the Rams more than it was for the Bills. And I think it just kind of caught him off guard, and he got ahead. And once they got ahead, he just kind of kept them ahead. So as much as I like Josh Allen, I don't think that Bills offense is going to get any better anytime soon. So, no, I'm sitting him.
I'm not even picking him up for what it's worth.
Well, I picked him up,
LaShawn
but only because
McCoy
I'm
may
a homer.
play this week. Probably going to be a little bit limited with that, rib cartilage fracture? Is that what it was? He's had a week to heal. Yep. Start, sit LaShawn McCoy.
I think you start him if you have him, unless I'd play Lindsey over him, a guy in that area. But McCoy has to play through pain, and I don't think they're going to force the issue because Ivory looked pretty good.
I don't know.
What about you, Mike?
That guy's like the unbreakable. He gets hurt and then just goes right back out there and starts playing. I think I'd actually be okay starting LaShawn McCoy this week.
Yeah, I have a hard time benching a guy like him even when he's questionable, so I think I'm still going to play. Aaron Rodgers, where do you have him ranked this week? That Bills defense played pretty well against Kirk Cousins.
I still have
top
Rodgers
5
up there. Yeah, top 5.
Yeah, borderline for me. It makes me a little nervous that obviously that he can't run, but he seems to. Wait, he's Aaron Rodgers. He does fine from the pocket, so he's right in that 5-6 fringe for me.
Yep, same here. Packers running game. Aaron Jones, 6 carries last week. Jamal Williams, 5 carries. And Ty Montgomery, 4 carries. I'm guessing we don't want any part of this backfield right now, right?
It's still Jamal Williams for me, but I'm not rolling any of them out there.
I dropped Jamal Williams in a couple leagues.
I did too.
Let me go pick those up.
All right, go get them.
I just have no confidence in that backfield right now. Jamal Williams, he's had the opportunity for 4 weeks in a row, and this guy hasn't done anything with that opportunity. Same with Ty Montgomery. And now we got Aaron Jones out there, and he wasn't even that impressive. So I'm actually kind of out on all this, and that's why I dropped him too.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he's had the opportunity. He didn't have the opportunity to prove himself last week with only 5 carries, but I agree that he's completely droppable. I don't know if I have him on any of my teams anymore. So moving on, wide receivers. Devontae Adams, a wide receiver 9 through 2 weeks in PPR leagues. He's had a great season so far, doing Devontae Adams things, catching a touchdown in each game. Definitely a must start. Geronimo Allison, is this his breakout season? He's a third-year wide receiver. Luke, is he breaking out?
No. I think he'll have some games that are pretty decent, but he'll have games where he has nothing. So, no.
I think he will. I think he'll actually the wide receiver, too, as you heard on the great debate this week, is just fine on the Green Bay Packers. So I think Geronimo Allison is actually a better talent than Randall Cobb. I think he'll overtake that position. And, yeah, I think he'll have a breakout season. I like Geronimo Allison a lot, and I love his name. Geronimo!
Great name. Yeah, as Mike said, he was one of the guys in this week's great debate that Dirty Jobs and I put out earlier this week. It was Geronimo Allison versus Calvin Ridley, and surprise, surprise, a ton of people on Facebook, which once again is the absolute worst social media site for posting fantasy football shows. Just people's reactions like on Facebook are worse than anything else. But it was overwhelmingly in favor of Calvin Ridley just because people think 3 touchdowns, he's going to get 3 touchdowns every week. Jimmy Graham, yet to find the end zone. He was mediocre last week as he went 5 for 45. I guess that's not super mediocre when you compare it to other tight ends in a PPR, but that's not what you want for Jimmy Graham. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game. Buccaneers at Bears. Ryan Fitzpatrick, does the magic leave this week? The Bucs are bringing Jameis Winston back. He's been reinstated. Does the magic go away?
Eventually, yes. This week, don't think so.
I disagree. I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick actually comes down to earth as well. He came back and threw 4 touchdowns. But this Bears defense is legit. They're moving really fast. You got Khalil Mack getting in that backfield real fast. So I think Ryan Fitzpatrick actually will make his exit this week. I think we'll see Jameis Winston before the game is through. Ryan Fitzpatrick overall has an 81.1 quarterback rating, right? That did not come from nowhere. So we know that he's this, not even a low tier. That's like Kaepernick numbers right there. So he's going to eventually start throwing the way he's used to throwing. If he comes out and can do this every week, then okay, I'll stand corrected. But I just don't think he will. I think we've seen this happen enough to where, again, I think by about halftime, they're going to be chanting Winston in Tampa Bay.
All right, halftime. Wow. Peyton Barber, only 8 carries for 33 yards in a game where the Bucs were down last week and Fitzpatrick had to throw. But even in week 2, he was bad. 16 carries, only 22 yards. He still hasn't gotten into the end zone yet. Only 1 catch on the season. I told you so, Hoos. Mike Evans is a beast again. 6 catches, 137 yards, and a touchdown. He's scored in all 3 weeks so far, and he scored more than 22 fantasy points in each of the first 3 weeks too. So Mike Evans having a great season. Chris Godwin also a touchdown in each of the first 3 weeks. Second on the team in targets and receptions. Is it clear that Godwin has taken over the wide receiver 2 spot over Deshaun Jackson?
Yes. Deshaun Jackson is a very specific player. He opens up the field deep, and he will have games that he puts up 150 yards on 3 receptions and a touchdown, and that's fantastic. It opens the field up for Godwin, Evans, and these other tight ends, just not the run game. But Godwin is the number 2.
Speaking of Djax getting only 3 catches, that's what he did last week. He finally came back to earth, did his Deshaun Jackson thing, 3 catches, 37 yards after huge plays in each of the first 2 weeks. So, yeah, once again, being boom or bust, I think a lot of people were super high on him. 2 straight weeks, 75-plus yard touchdowns or whatever it was. Got to start him. And then he did what he does and disappointed. O.J. Howard or Cameron Brate rest of the season?
That's a really tough one because it very much depends on the quarterback. If it's Winston in for the majority of the rest of the season, it's Brait. If it's Fitzpatrick in for the majority of the rest of the season, then it's OJ.
If you had to make the call today.
I think Brait, because I think we see Jameis sooner rather than later, and Brait is his guy.
I think everybody keeps saying that it's his guy, but I think with O.J. Howard's talent level and his size, I think he'll easily become the new Brait. I don't know that you'll even see Brait getting out there on many snaps like he has been. So we'll see. I mean, if Brait can just get that connection back and that chemistry back, then perfect. But I really think it'll be the O.J. Howard show.
Why not both? Why would they not play both guys?
Yeah, right on. Yeah, but get two tight ends going.
Yeah, in theory, they could have one of the best passing offenses in the game.
This is true.
Agreed.
I mean, they have the weapons.
But there's a lot of really good ones out there right now, which is what is making me love this season. A lot of really great receiving options and receiving cores.
For sure. Well, speaking of a team who doesn't have a great quarterback right now, Mitch Trubisky, only 2 passing touchdowns on the season, 3 picks. Both touchdowns came week 2 against Seattle, so he has 2 games so far with 0 touchdown passes. We were talking about this before the show. I'm debating on flexing maybe even O.J. Howard over Trubisky in a super flex league. So I'm not excited about that. Jordan Howard, 24 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown last week. 10 catches on the season for him, so he's on pace for more than 50 receptions this year, having another solid Jordan Howard season. Allen Robinson, though, a week after getting 10 catches for 83 yards, he goes 3 for 50. Is he still nothing more than a flex play, Lucas? Or is he a must-start against that Tampa Bay defense?
He's not a must-start any week. I have been one of Allen Robinson's biggest critics, and I will continue to do so as long as Mitchell Trubisky is at the helm.
His floor to me seems like it's pretty decent, but his ceiling to me has just not been there this year. I feel like the guy has the talent to be good, but to me, it's all Mitchell Trubisky that is causing this offense to bog down.
Yeah, I can't wait so we can all give Nick a huge I told you so about how bad that trade the Bears made was.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just like telling Nick I told you so.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Last player here in this game, Trey Burton. Hugely disappointing season so far, I would say. 9 receptions over 3 games, only 90 total yards and only 1 touchdown. Is it time to look elsewhere? I found David Njoku on waivers in a league this week where I have Burton. I picked him up. Would you play Njoku with Baker Mayfield or Trey Burton this week?
It's not even close. It's Njoku rest of season with Baker.
Yep, same here.
Yep, same for me. I like Njoku. I drafted him because of I wanted Baker Mayfield to be the quarterback.
I don't know if I'm ready to make the rest of season call on that, but this week, that's what I'm feeling. Moving on here, the AFC East leading Dolphins at New England Patriots. And yes, the AFC East leading Dolphins. 3-0, right? Ryan Tannehill, 7 touchdowns on the season, 3 last week against Oakland, only 2 interceptions so far this year. Is he a streaming option this week? I mean, we got Cam Newton on a bye.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think at New England is the part that scares me there. I think he goes back to his Ryan Tannehill ways this weekend.
And Lucas, Kenyon Drake only had 5 carries for 3 yards last week. Frank Gore, 6 carries. What is wrong with that running game? Wasn't Kenyon Drake supposed to be, this great player, fourth round in a fantasy draft, supposed to be a stud?
Stud's a little much, but I do think that he will produce for you going forward. I'm not worried about Kenyon Drake. He's a really good running back.
Mike, what do you think? Drake or Gore?
Kenyon Drake, but he's I mean, it's bad. It's bad in Miami. They're just not using them. It's not falling in their game script to use them. So I feel like Kenyon Drake from here on out is probably going to be pretty decent.
All right. Albert Wilson, 2 for 74 and a touchdown last week. I am happy to say I played him in our Sleeper Wire Dynasty League. Last week, I'm really interested in knowing what percentage of leagues he was actually started in, because it can't be very high. But I was happy that he got me all those points. Kenny Stills, another touchdown, 3 for 61. This is what he does, only a few receptions, but he only needs a long one. Tom Brady, kind of a down week, 133 yards and a touchdown last week against Detroit. Only 7.5 fantasy points. We're still not benching him, though, right? Even against the powerhouse, undefeated Dolphins. Can I say that more sarcastically?
You see, and I like how you put in the notes AFC East leading Dolphins. Only because I think you only put that in there because they're playing the Patriots.
Oh, yeah. I hate the Patriots. Yep. Absolutely. But we're still not benching Tom Brady, right?
I think he has a pretty good game.
No, you're not benching Tom Brady. You're going to see him come to form next week, not this week. Next week, he gets Edelman back. They may have Josh Gordon this weekend. You're going to start to see them open up the playbook. Belichick is not happy right now. He's going to start getting some production out of these guys.
Well, another thing that's not going to make him happy is losing Rex Burkhead. He's been put on the IR. Are we going to see more Sony Michel, or is this great news for James White, Lucas?
So James White has only had more than 10 rushes one time for the last 2 or 3 years. So it's going to be the Sony Michel show in terms of rushing. It just is guaranteed. Take it to the bank. James White is going to get his, but a lot of them are going to be catches. So PPR monster going forward.
Julian Edelman's going to be back next week. Is it time to try to trade Chris Hogan, Mike? 7 catches through the first 3 weeks, not great. He just happened to find the end zone twice in week 2. You trying to trade him?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get any value out of that guy right now is the time to do it. I know we got a lot of analysts on here that think this is going to really open him up with the Josh Gordon move. But I think what it's really going to do is it's going to be a really big benefit to Sony Michel, Rob Gronkowski, and Julian Edelman. I think that's all that Gordon adds to the scenario.
Yep, I would agree. And speaking of Gronkowski, still a top 3 tight end. Moving on, Lions at Cowboys. Matthew Stafford, 895 yards through the first 2 weeks, 6 touchdowns. Had a bad week 1, but 2 solid weeks in a row, and he gets to play Dallas. Stafford at Cowboys or Roethlisberger at home against Baltimore, who always plays the Steelers really well. Who would you rather play, Stafford or Roethlisberger this week? Just give me a name.
Roethlisberger.
I think Baltimore eats the Steelers this week. I have a weird feeling. That game is always very tough to predict. I think Baltimore comes out.
I think I'm going with Roethlisberger as well, but we'll get more into that when we get to the Steelers-Ravens game. Kerryon Johnson finally started getting the ball. 16 carries, 101 yards last week against the Patriots. 10 catches through the first 3 weeks. Do we need to see more before we play him?
No, I think get him out on the field right now. I've been on Kerryon Johnson for a while. I believe if you remember right, I said week 4, you'll probably want to start starting him. Here we are, week 4. It's looking like he's dominating that backfield. Dallas doesn't scare me. Get him out.
All right, somebody go find the clip of Mike saying that in one of our shows, and we'll give you a shout out.
Yeah, that's exactly. What I will say there is he's still splitting touches with Blunt. They had equal touches last game. We saw it was very difficult for Saquon Barkley to get anything rushing-wise going against Dallas. I don't think this is the week that you really want to bust out Kerryon. I love Kerryon's usage going forward. I don't think this is the week that you want to start him.
You're a Dallas fan.
I
am. Golden Tate, Kenny Golladay, and Marvin Jones. Another great passing offense here. Are they all must plays if you have them?
I don't think must plays. I think maybe Kenny Golladay is a must play. I think Golden Tate is a must play in PPR leagues. But I feel like Marvin Jones, I feel like you can probably find something stronger than him.
Wow. So I have to defend my Cowboys here. They have one of the most underrated secondaries in all of football. I don't think any of these guys are must-starts this week, surely because of that secondary. Marvin Jones is still the man and will finish the number 1 wide receiver for the Lions this year.
Cowboys side of the ball, Dak Prescott's been super disappointing to me so far. I loved him as a late-round quarterback coming into the season. I thought he was being disrespected in fantasy drafts. But he's yet to have more than 170 passing yards and only has 2 touchdowns on the season. Lucas, what is going on with your quarterback?
They're bad on offense. The play calling is terrible. Dak does not look like he has confidence. The O-line is having issues, and the wide receivers aren't creating separation. And when they are, Dak isn't seeing it because he's running for his life. It's a mess on offense. Love the defense. The offense is a mess. Gallup needs to step up and take the reins.
I will say this, the impact of not having Jason Witten is totally noticeable.
Sure, absolutely. Witten's the man.
Absolutely. Who else is the man? Ezekiel Elliott, still a beast. Cole Beasley, Mike, I want your thoughts on this. Is he playable? He hasn't been great, even though he is Dak's favorite target. You did trade him to me along with Melvin Gordon last week.
Right. The thing that I was liking about him was his production, and that's why he was on my team even in the first place, right? But the problem is that his targets are like 1 yard deep or 2 yards deep, and then he's not getting any separation and busting those out. So he's getting these 1 catch, 2 catch, 3 catch, up to 6, 7 catches, but he's also turning that into about 15, 20 yards. So in a PPR league, I mean, yes, he's got a kind of a decent floor, but there's just no ceiling for Cole Beasley right now.
Cincinnati Bengals travel to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Andy Dalton, I am streaming him this week with Cam Newton on a bye. I'm glad I found him on waivers. 10 total touchdowns so far this season, 2 on the ground and 8 through the air. He has just been awesome. He did throw 4 picks last week at Carolina, but 352 yards and 2 touchdowns helped balance that out. Breeze had 5 touchdowns last week against Atlanta. Do you think Dalton can get at least 3, Lucas?
Ooh, yes. Yes, I do.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, that's a banged-up defense. I think, start your Andy Daltons.
Giovanni Bernard, when he gets the backfield to himself, he is always pretty good. 12 for 61 and a touchdown on the ground last week, adding 5 catches through the air. I like him a lot this week against the Falcons. I think most people will have him ranked top 15 for the most part. AJ Green, still a must start. At least 5 catches each of the first 2 weeks. 4 touchdowns so far. I should have said first 3 weeks. 4 touchdowns so far, albeit 3 came in week 2 in the first half there. Tyler Boyd, I want to get your quick thoughts on this. 2 great starts in a row, 6 for 91 and a touchdown in week 2. Another 6 catches for 132 yards and a touchdown in week 3. Should he be owned in all leagues?
Yes.
Yep, I agree.
All right, Tyler Eifert, 6 catches for 74 yards last week. Good to see him get some action. I have him on one of my teams, so I'm pretty excited about that. Matt Ryan has been phenomenal for 2 straight weeks, and it was like as soon as I said something bad about him last week, he just blew up. 4 total touchdowns week 2, 5 total last week with 374 yards and no picks. Great game for him. I'm certainly streaming him this week. Not streaming, I'm certainly playing him this week. Julio Jones still putting up pretty decent numbers, 5 catches for 96 yards, but still hasn't found the end zone. Mike, is this the week where that happens?
I believe so, actually. I think he does find the end zone this week.
Lucas?
It's a big week for Julio.
All right, I love the confidence because I am a Julio owner and I really want to see it. Calvin Ridley, the other person in this week's great debate across from Geronimo Allison, 3 touchdowns on 7 catches and 146 yards last week. Guys, do not overreact to that. Yes, he had a great game, but no, he's not going to get 3 touchdowns. Chill out.
He's going to get 5. Start him.
He's going to get 5.
He's not going to do that again. I promise.
He's getting 5. Julio's getting 1.
It's going to be 1,012 to 74.
Oh, let's talk about the running game there. Tevin Coleman. Devonta Freeman is questionable right now, dealing with that bone bruise on his knee, I believe. Obviously, Coleman is a must start when Freeman is out. If Freeman plays, are you still flexing Coleman with Devonta Freeman probably getting limited work?
Really depends on who else you have. He's a flexible option, but I think if Freeman is playing, I can find better on my squad.
I think with the defense that they're facing with Cincinnati out there, I think that actually this is kind of a game that shapes up for Tevin Coleman. Even if Devonta Freeman was fully healthy, I'd still feel like this is kind of one of those Tevin Coleman pass out of the backfield type games. Cincinnati actually has a pretty decent defense.
Jets at Jaguars. Sam Darnold, 169 yards and no touchdowns last week. 2 interceptions. Definitely not playing him against that Jaguars defense. Isaiah Crowell killed it last week. 16 carries and 2 touchdowns. I put last season in the show notes. No, last week. Only 34 yards, though. He's got two touchdown games on the season. Does he have any chance against Jacksonville to maybe just get in the end zone once?
No.
I mean, a chance, but there's also a chance that I can go date Cindy Crawford.
Okay. All right. Thinking out of the box there.
Man.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a
Taking
chance.
It back to the 80s and 90s.
Dude,
I
Cindy
think
Crawford is still
Jacksonville
hot.
embarrasses the Jets this week.
Yeah, even as a Colts fan, I don't want to see another AFC South rival do well. I think that's probably going to happen as well. Bilal Powell, 14 carries last week, 73 yards, much more efficient than Crowell, but only 1 touchdown on the season. And for being the passing down back, he got 0 catches last week, so not what you want to see. Quincy Enunwa is clearly Sam Darnold's favorite target. Are you playing him against the Jags? And if so, who do you think Jalen Ramsey is going to be on more? Quincy Enunwa or Robbie Anderson, Mike? I'll kick it to you first.
I think they're going to try to leave Robbie Anderson open because he can't do anything with the football. It'll be a Nunwa.
You playing him?
Probably not.
What about you, Lucas?
In a PPR, I'm still going to rock Enunwa. He's still Sam Darnold's favorite guy. In a standard, I think I'm going to fade him.
Yeah, no Jets in a standard for me. Blake Bortles, only 155 passing yards and no touchdowns against Tennessee. A week after throwing for 376 and 4. He's been getting some points on the ground, but he's barely a streaming option for me right now. What about you guys? Yes or no?
I just dropped him for Andy Dalton in the league. What happened there is I started him in my money league, and once he sees that I start him on any one of my teams, he just completely does nothing. So that's probably more my fault. Yeah,
that's the longest no I've ever heard, Mike.
That's a big no.
Lucas, is he a streaming option for you?
Yes.
All right. Leonard Fournette has been out since week 1 when he got injured. 9 carries for 41 yards that week. If he plays, is he in your lineup? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, same here. Keelan Cole, last player here for this game, a week after a huge game and being ranked in the top 12 for a bunch of people last week, including Hoos and Mike. You both had him ranked in the top 12. I had him in the late 20s. Only 5 catches for 40 yards. Are you still confident in Keelan Cole?
Yes, he's the wide receiver one on that team. Yeah, he's still going to do it. He just, I mean, that game was those two teams played each other so weird.
It's Bortles.
And
it's Bortles. If Bortles plays bad, then Keelan Cole's not going to have a great game. Keelan Cole is a monster. He is an absolute unit.
Well,
Bortles has a good game.
Tennessee can have the tendency to get you out of a game too. They've got a pretty decent defense too when they decide to show up.
Speaking of Tennessee, next game, Philadelphia Eagles at Tennessee Titans. Carson Wentz did not look like the 2017 Carson Wentz, but it was his first week back. 255 passing yards, a touchdown, a pick, and a fumble against the Colts defense, who once again has been doing a pretty great job the last 2 weeks. The only reason the Eagles won that game, as I said earlier, all the penalties against the Colts. Carson Wentz, we're still firing him up, right?
I am.
Yes, he's usable this week. I have him in the same leagues that I have Phillip Rivers. So I'm actually going to keep rocking Rivers until either Rivers comes down or Wentz just comes up. But Wentz is playable.
Jay Ajayi's questionable right now. Probably getting limited reps. Still going to be in my flex spot. I still want a piece of that run game, especially now that Wentz is back. And Corey Clement, 16 carries, 56 yards, no touchdowns, only 3 catches in a game where many were predicting him to be top 10. So if Ajayi plays and is limited, if you had to pick one, start, sit, Jay Ajayi or Corey Clement?
It's Ajayi if he's playing all day, no question.
Corey Clement for me.
Ajayi for me as well. Moving to the receiving game for the Eagles, though, this is kind of disappointing. The Jordan Matthews signing, Nelson Aguilar or Jordan Matthews, who is going to be the guy for Wentz? Aguilar had 4 catches for 24 yards last week after getting 8 catches each of the first 2 weeks. 2 for 21 for Jordan Matthews last week. Both absolutely thrive in the slot, and only one can be there now. Who's it going to be?
Ooh, I think it's still Aguilar. But what we're going to see is a lot of the 2 tight end sets and then Jeffrey coming back.
Yep.
Soon.
Alshon Jeffrey will be back this weekend. I almost think he's already in practices. He's already cleared for contact. To me, he's going to be the guy that comes back. Alshon Jeffrey and Ertz. There
we go. It's time to fire up that Eagles defense, too, because they're going against the buzzsaw of Marcus Mariota and Blaine Gabbert, depending on if Mariota gets hurt or not. Not super exciting for the whole Titans when it comes to fantasy. Dion Lewis or Derrick Henry this week?
Dion Lewis every week.
Yep, same here. Corey Davis had a decent first 2 games of the season, but only 2 for 34. Last week it was against Jacksonville, so it kind of makes sense. Is he flex-worthy this week, or are you benching him for the time being, Mike?
You know, I'm actually starting him in a few of my daily leagues this week because I actually have confidence just for his production. I think he'll get, 7 to 10 catches somewhere in there, probably 80, 90 yards, and possibly a touchdown.
That's a big game.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. If daily you're talking about, daily sports where you got money on the line, I would swap him out.
Hey, he's going to be cheap, though.
And he's going to be unowned.
I mean, that's true. So if you're going tournament lineups, I could see the contrarian. But if it's cash, I would not play him.
Moving on here, Browns at Raiders. It is Baker Mayfield time in Cleveland. A ton of people are excited about this, including me. I have never bought into the Tyrod Taylor hype. You guys know that. Even when people were going crazy for him against the Saints, I am looking forward to this offense now. I can't believe I am going to be on record saying that about the Browns offense. Mike, you might have to edit that part out of the show.
No, we're leaving that in there, but it's okay. I like that take.
Oh, yeah. He can also catch 2-point conversions. So we don't really any stats off of him last week, just a little bit in the end of the game. Let's talk about the running game, though. Carlos Hyde already has received 61 carries this season in that quote-unquote crowded backfield. 21 carries week 1, 16 week 2, 23 last week to go along with his 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's scored every single week. He's a must-play, isn't he?
At the Raiders, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. There we go. Duke Johnson, only 10 carries on the season, only 5 catches compared to Hyde's 4 catches. Is Duke Johnson droppable, or will the switch to Baker ramp things up for him, Lucas?
He's a hold for now, for sure, because we know what Duke can be. They paid him, and Baker's going to change this offense up. So I think we see some production going forward from Duke, but it will not be what we saw last year.
I completely agree with that whole take right there. I think Duke Johnson will be a serviceable back throughout the season, but yeah, nothing like the numbers we were seeing last year.
100% agree here. Jarvis Landry, he can catch and he can throw. I did not realize he was left-handed. When he threw that ball, I was like, wait, that was weird.
Yeah.
Michael Vick out there throwing passes, the lefty. Threw that 2-point conversion to Baker last week, which really excited the Browns fans, as it should. You guys taking Antonio Callaway or Rashard Higgins? Who would you rather have rest of season if you had to pick one?
Callaway.
Higgins for me.
Ooh.
I'm taking Callaway as well. And once again, David and Joku are excited to see him break out. This could be the week with Baker. Moving on, Seattle Seahawks at Arizona Cardinals. Russell Wilson only 192 yards last week, but he has thrown at least 2 touchdowns each week. 21 rushing yards, that's it on the season, including a very Eli Manning-esque -1 last week. Are you concerned about Russell Wilson, or is what he's doing with throwing at least 2 touchdowns making up for his sort of lack of production right now, Mike?
You know, he's not a first-half quarterback, and in fact, he hit the waiver wire in 2 leagues that I'm in this week. Isn't that crazy? I promise. I'll show you. I've got both of them in for waivers right now, even though I'm solid at quarterback on both. I'm like, it's Russell Wilson. He's out there. He's probably not going to do much, like I said, till about week 7, week 8. And that's when he wakes up and just starts throwing touchdown after touchdown.
That's stupid.
Right? It's crazy. I'm just like, I'm sitting there staring at it like, I've got Andrew Luck and I've got Carson Wentz on one of these teams. And I'm like, and I'm still going after him.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't. Well, speaking of guys who shouldn't be dropped, who are being dropped, Doug Baldwin has been dropped from a bunch of teams. That can easily end up being a mistake. So if he's out there, go look at who was dropped this week if you haven't done so yet. If Baldwin was dropped, go get him. You're not going to regret that. Tyler Lockett has scored a touchdown in all 3 weeks. Probably not going to do that for all 16 games, but he's got to at least be flex-worthy, right?
Yeah, for sure, especially with Baldwin out.
He has flex appeal.
Flex appeal. Love it. Chris Carson, 32 carries last week, which was amazing considering he only had 13 total the first 2 weeks, 102 yards and a touchdown to go along with those 32 carries. Is he the guy, or are people overreacting to Chris Carson?
I mean, he's the guy for them right now. He's not that great, and that team, the O-line is not that great. So he's going to have some decent games, but then there's also going to be games where he randomly gets benched for Penny or somebody else because Pete Carroll woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Yeah. So
he brought the wrong flavor gum to Pete Carroll, and
that's right. He was eating Skittles, and it made Pete Carroll really upset that Marshawn Lynch was no longer still on the team. I
wanted spearmint. Mike, I'm going to kick this next question to you because I know you were pretty high on this guy, at least during the Blitz a couple weeks ago. Is the Will Dissly experiment over? 1 catch for 4 yards last week. You think there's going to be a bounce back? Is he even startable?
I do. I think he's actually still a serviceable back there. I mean, I'm not excited about him by any means, but I think he's good enough.
All right. Moving over to the Cardinals side of the ball, Josh Rosen, the rookie, is taking over as the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. They are benching the $20 million Sam Bradford for Josh Rosen. And are you going to play him in a 2-quarterback league? I'm actually streaming him in a league where I have Cam Newton on a bye this week.
Yeah, I am. I'm streaming him.
What about you, Lucas?
No, I'm not streaming Josh Rosen. I think that he's going to throw 3 interceptions. I think that he's better for the wide receivers and all of the pieces there, but I don't think that Josh Rosen ends up with a fantasy productive game.
All right. David Johnson got into the end zone for the second time this season last week. He's yet to receive more than 13 carries, which is not what we were expecting. 4 catches last week, though, which isn't horrible. Had a receiving touchdown. Still a must start, in my opinion. Can I assume you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. Larry Fitzgerald, I benched him last week, as did a lot of people. I actually like him more this week with Josh Rosen for sure. What do you guys think? Larry Fitzgerald with Rosen versus Bradford.
I like him more, and I'm doing the same thing with you. I'm playing the flip-flop where I put him in my lineup and then take him out, and it doesn't feel right, and I put him back in and then take him out. And it's PPR, so that's why I'm – in standard, though, I'm not playing Fitz this week. I want to see something between him and Rosen first.
Yeah, I like Larry Fitz a lot. I think he's actually what I've been saying the whole entire time is because I've been getting a lot of questions about dropping this guy. And I say, no, hold on to him. Wait till you see what Rosen does out there. It's weird, though, because that team just doesn't have the same excitement level as all these other teams that have their rookies out there. You know, they get this bolstered playing effect and things like that. And it just, you don't see that with the Arizona Cardinals right now. Granted, he got put in the fourth quarter, but.
Yep. Moving on, a lot of people say rookies like their tight ends. Ricky Seals-Jones got into the end zone last week. Only 1 catch, but it was a 35-yard touchdown. Do we like him more with Josh Rosen? Quick yes or no. Start, sit, Ricky Seals-Jones.
You can start him if you need to. Do like him more with Rosen.
I have a league where I have Jordan Reed on bye. I'm starting Ricky Seals-Jones. I'm streaming Ricky Seals-Jones.
That's not a bad stream to me. I think, like, when you look at tight end production, especially this season, he's perfectly serviceable.
Yeah, just such a weak position. Let's move on to the next game, though. Saints at Giants. Drew Brees, 5 touchdowns last week against the Falcons. 5 total touchdowns, I should say. Putting up a monster game for you. I like him a lot against the Giants. Alvin Kamara, we don't need to talk about him. Total stud. Michael Thomas, total stud. Ted Ginn has established himself as a wide receiver 2 for the Saints. Brees likes throwing the ball deep to him, and nobody can cover both Michael Thomas and Ted Ginn when they go deep. I think Ginn is definitely a flex option any given week. What about you guys?
Yeah, he is, because he's another one of those players that can do Deshaun Jackson things and just put up a huge stat line.
If you're looking for a high ceiling, he's a great play.
That's right.
Yep, I like it. Good thoughts on that. Ben Watson, top 12 guy this week against the Giants. I think he is. 5 for 71 last week in a high-scoring game. I think he can be a tight end 1 this week. What about you, Lucas?
Sure, I can see him getting in the end zone.
Mike, what about you?
I think I could be a tight end 1 this year, so yes.
I bet you could too. You know what? Why don't we get a picture of Mike wearing a helmet and shoulder pads, tweet that out, and say, could this guy be a tight end 1? What do you say?
I think it needs to be him running a route.
I think it
throw, like a little 5-second clip of it.
With one of those Ezekiel Elliott half shirts.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah.
Yes, it'll show the beer gut perfect.
Eli Manning, definitely a streaming option at home against the Saints, in my opinion. They don't have the greatest defense. It's not what people were expecting it was going to be. I'm talking about the Giants, and the Saints have some momentum after last week, which means I think the Giants are going to have to throw. And also remember the last two times these two teams played each other in New York was that game, I think it was 2016, that had over 100 total points in scoring.
Yeah.
Like Eli and Breeze each threw 6 touchdown passes.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Ridiculous.
Hopefully
that'll happen again.
Hey!
Yep, that'll be great. Saquon Barkley, clear stud. Odell Beckham Jr., clear stud. Evan Engram's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks with a sprained MCL. Who benefits because of this, Mike? Sterling Shepard or Rhett Ellison, the career backup tight end? Is he going to step up? He did catch a touchdown last week. Who's going to benefit more?
So to me, it's actually none of these guys. To me, what they didn't have last year was Saquon Barkley, and I actually think he's the guy that will benefit as a result of the Ingram loss. I think he'll be the guy that steps up, takes most of the production there.
Moving on to the next game, San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Chargers. Jimmy Garoppolo suffered a season-ending torn ACL. CJ Beathard is back. He was pretty bad last year. But you know what? You know who was really good with him? Carlos Hyde in the receiving game. Matt Breida averaging over 8 yards a carry, which won't continue, but I believe his receptions are going to go way up. He's going to get more than 3. Beathard likes to throw to his running backs, and I think Breida's going to be the guy. Who do you like more, Breida or Alf with Beathard?
Breida.
Ooh, yeah, I think it still has to be Breida.
Same here for me. Marquise Goodwin, is he a play against the Chargers? 3 catches for 30 yards and a touchdown last week after nothing the first 2 weeks. I mean, he was injured, so can't count that against him.
I'm not playing him.
I'm not either. I didn't like their chemistry last year. I have to see it before I believe it.
Yeah, the Beathard thing does not make me excited about this. Pierre Garçon, only 1 for 11 last week, 7 catches on the year. Certainly keeping him on your bench right now. George Kittle, another good game last week. 5 catches, 79 yards. That's a game you're happy with from your tight end. With the weak position, he's definitely a start. Moving over to my favorite team to watch in fantasy football, the Los Angeles Chargers. Phillip Rivers, love him this week against San Francisco. 906 passing yards and 8 touchdowns on the season. You guys,
those were your projections for the week.
Yeah, for the week. Absolutely love him. Yep. Breaking records. Melvin Gordon, my second favorite running back in fantasy football after Todd Gurley. I love this guy. Mike, I traded to get Melvin Gordon with you 2 weeks ago. A couple days ago in the Sleeper Wire Pro-Am in the league I'm commissioning, I traded Julio Jones and Alex Collins to get Melvin Gordon and Marvin Jones. Big fan of that trade.
Wow, that is a pretty good trade.
Yeah, I'm trying to get Melvin everywhere. I don't know about you guys, but I want him on every single one of my teams.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, love it. Now, I know you're a big Marvin Jones fan, too.
I am. I love me some Marvin Jones. And if Stafford can connect with him on these downfield passes, which he finally did last week, and he overthrew him in the first week, which would have been like a 70-yard bomb, but we won't go there.
Yep, Keenan Allen, still a must start, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Mike Williams, 3 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. All 3 touchdowns have come on contested catches, which is something that he's known for. Mike Williams is a very, very good wide receiver. Rivers certainly likes throwing to him, and any quarterback loves a wide receiver who's going to be able to, catch the ball when it's thrown into a tight window. Is he someone that has he worked his way into your, yes, we're definitely starting Mike Williams?
I'm starting him in all of my leagues that I have him, which is 4.
I'm pretty much there with the guy too. I'm not actually starting him in a lot of my leagues. I'm just not sure what my apprehension is about the guy, but something is cautioning me about him. But I really like what I've seen out of him, and he is a beast. I think maybe it's my Keenan Allen love that's causing me to back off on the guy. So I got to get past that before I can start this guy.
Yeah, the trade that was offered to me, he said, I asked what he wanted for Melvin, and he said, well, I want Julio Jones or DeAndre Hopkins and Alex Collins. And I was like, well, that's a little rich for just Melvin Gordon. Honestly, I would have done it. But I wanted a little bit more. And he said, I can throw in Mike Williams or Marvin Jones to sweeten the deal. And instantly I was like, oh, hell yes, that sounds awesome. But I didn't necessarily want 2 Chargers on the team. Have to start 2 Chargers every single week.
I'm okay with that.
I do like Marvin for the season better than Mike Williams, though, at least for this year.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. I like both of them a lot. I have no issue playing 2 Chargers, though.
Yeah, I think I also have Rivers in that one, too. I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of Chargers on that team.
Okay, so when we get up to 4 Chargers, that might be a bit much for the week. But 2,
Antonio Gates and Austin Eckler and Tyrell Williams. I'm basically just drafted the Chargers. That's what I did.
See that.
Yep. Oh, we have 2 really good primetime games to end the week. We have a great one to begin the week too, with the Rams and the Vikings. But ending the week, Sunday Night Football, Baltimore Ravens at Pittsburgh Steelers, a big-time division game. These two teams know each other very, very well. Joe Flacco had a pretty down week last week, started the season with 3 touchdowns in week 1. Not a streaming option, in my opinion, even if you have Alex Smith or Cam Newton. I think those are the only two guys, only 2 quarterbacks on a bye this week. Still not streaming him, right?
Yeah, I'm not.
In Pittsburgh?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex Collins or Javorius Allen. 18 carries, 68 yards, and a touchdown for Collins last week. Adding 3 catches, pretty good for him. Only 6 carries for Allen. But they clearly use this guy on the goal line. He scored a rushing touchdown inside the 5 or 10, I believe, in each of the first 3 weeks. Also had a receiving touchdown last week. Which guy do you like more? Do you go with the guy who is most likely getting the volume, or the guy who is most likely getting goal line work? Collins or Allen?
I'm still Collins on the season, but Allen in this game.
Same.
Michael Crabtree looks like he's going to be Flacco's go-to guy. I'm taking Collins, by the way. 7 for 61 last week against Denver. Ben Roethlisberger moving to the Steelers side of the ball. This is a ridiculous stat. On pace for 6,080 passing yards this season. He's at well over 300 yards each of the first 2 weeks, 452 in week 2. 6 turnovers so far, but he's definitely been making up for those 6 turnovers through the air. The Ravens always play the Steelers really well, but you still have to start this guy. He's on a hot streak to start the season. You got to play him at home, right? Even in a tough matchup?
Yeah, I think you still got to rock the hot hand.
Yeah, I agree.
Rock the hot hand. I like it.
Rock the hot hand.
Rock the hot hand. James Conner, 15 carries for 61 yards last week, 5 catches for 34 yards through the air. I was so disappointed that the Tampa Bay Bucks did not finish off that game-winning drive to beat the Steelers, and really just for fantasy. And the reason why, when the Bucks got the ball back, you know how they went 3 and out that last time they got the ball, right?
Yep.
They get the ball. James Conner had scored just enough points. Conner and Roethlisberger had scored just enough points to give me a 2-point lead in one league, but also not beat me in another league. So I had the 2-point lead in one. Mitch Renz in my Pro-Am had James Conner and Ben Roethlisberger, and before that 3 and out, I was up by 1.5.
Oh, damn.
And I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to win. The Bucks are going to do this. And then 3 and out, they kicked the ball back, and I ended up losing by 2. Super bummed. Anyways, definitely the bell cow for the Steelers. He scored 3 times this season. Still a play. Are we thinking about dealing Connor still? Or with the Le'Veon Bell trade talk, are we even more excited than we already were?
I like it a lot more now. It doesn't look like he's coming back to Pittsburgh. So I'm really excited about the leagues I got Connor in.
I think that Le'Veon Bell finishes as a Steeler, and I think that we see him probably the week after their bye. So week 7 or week 8 is when we'll see Le'Veon Bell, if not sooner.
I mean, if he's holding out till week 7 or 8, he might as well stay out till week 10, right? So he can guarantee that he's a free agent?
No, because the way that works is you don't really get to hold out 10 weeks. You can only hold out 8 to be a completely unrestricted free agent. There's some little stipulation in the rules, so there's a 2-week period in there, so he can't actually hold out 10 weeks. He can only hold out 8.
Gotcha. Antonio Brown, nothing more we have to say other than his name. He's awesome, but you know who else has been really, really good is Juju Smith-Schuster. Incredibly good so far, getting peppered with targets every single week. He's at over 100 yards in each of the first 3 weeks of the season, and he's definitely a big play guy. You have to start Juju every single week. Moving to the tight end, though. Vance McDonald or Jesse James, it's a toss-up for me. You definitely don't want both guys. But if they're both on waivers, and say you have Jordan Reed on a bye this week, if you had to grab one, who are you grabbing?
Flip a coin.
Vance McDonald for me.
Seriously, flip a coin.
How great was that stiff arm?
Dude, that stiff arm was mean. Vance McDonald is a big, mean tight end. I think we saw the end of Jesse James last week.
That stiff arm was so vicious. It was awesome. Moving to Monday Night Football, a huge game. Well, like I said, 2 great games to end the week. Chiefs at Broncos. Patrick Money Mahomes, 13 touchdowns on the season. Couple really good stats that I saw on ESPN about him. He's got the most touchdown passes through a team's first 3 games of the season in NFL history. And he's also, think about this, the first quarterback drafted by the Chiefs to win a home game in Arrowhead Stadium since 1987.
Wow.
Well, all right.
That sounds ridiculous. That's an insane stat. I mean, the Chiefs don't usually draft quarterbacks. Like, you think about it, like they usually trade for them or sign them in free agency, right?
Right.
They don't usually draft them. But 31 years since a Chiefs quarterback that they drafted has won a home game.
Wow.
That's nuts. Yeah, so we're pumped to see him this week on Monday Night Football, see what he does under the lights. Kareem Hunt, at least 16 carries in each of the first 3 games, finally got into the end zone, scoring twice on the goal line last week, but only 1 catch on the season. This nothing to do with Kareem Hunt, in my opinion. Mahomes is not a check down guy. He's not I'm going to throw it to the running back. This is going to take Kareem Hunt complaining and, the squeaky wheel gets the grease type of thing in order to get him involved in the passing game, right?
I don't know. I think that they scheme to get Hunt in there. They don't want to – I think they want to mix it up. And they have all of this elite talent. They're going to let Mahomes do his thing. So he is going to be scrambling. He is going to be throwing the ball. But I do see them getting Hunt more involved as we go.
I mean, until Mahomes does his thing and it doesn't work, if it ain't broke.
That's right. And I don't think that they take the ball out of his hand necessarily by utilizing Hunt. I think that they can utilize Hunt and still allow Mahomes, which will allow him to continue doing what he's doing. They got to keep him honest.
For sure. Tyreek Hill, maybe a down week last week, but he's still a must start. There's no way he should be on any bench. Sammy Watkins has had productive 2 straight weeks, 6 for 100 in week 2, 5 for 55 and a touchdown last week. He is still scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Mike, do you like him against your Denver Broncos in Denver on Monday Night Football?
I do not. I actually think that this time Patrick Mahomes finds a defense that can contain him on the inside, push back, and actually sack him a few times. I think he's going to get a lot of pressure that he's not used to. And so for me, I still like Travis Kelce. I still like Tyreek Hill because those guys are must starts. And I actually even like Kareem Hunt in this game. But I think Kansas City loses this week.
Wow. I think that's bold. That might be the boldest statement this week.
Yeah,
I can see it happening.
I just feel like the defense is so tough, man. Look at what Von Miller's doing right now. And on the other side, you got Chubb. I mean, it's going to be tough to produce.
All right. Well, it's going to be a fun one to watch for sure. Travis Kelce is the clear number 1 tight end in football right now. 7 for 109 and 2 in week 2, 8 for 114 last week. He's the man. Mike, finishing up here talking about your team. Case Keenum, no touchdowns the last 2 weeks, but he's going to have to throw, right?
In this one, he will. Yeah, man, it's against a very weak defense that has allowed a lot of fantasy production. So I like Case Keenum as a streamer, but not 100%. He's still Case Keenum. And
the Phillip Lindsay, Royce Freeman whole debate flipped last week. Lindsay had 4 carries for 20 yards after out-touching Freeman the first 2 weeks. Or getting the exact same week 1, out-touching him week 2. Royce had 13 carries for 53 yards and a touchdown. Who are you liking this week, Mike?
Phillip Lindsay. I think he's, he only had that production because he got booted out in the first quarter for supposedly throwing punches. What I saw,
you know what? I forgot to put that in the show notes. Yes, he did get ejected.
Yeah, he got ejected, yep. And with that ejection, it didn't look to me like he was throwing punches. It looked like to me he was fighting for the ball. Whatever. I think he'll do pretty good, though.
I agree. Phillip Lindsay is going to end up being the most productive back going forward.
All right, take it into the receiving game. Emmanuel Sanders. He's come back to earth a little bit. Started with 10 for 135 yards and a touchdown week 1. He's had 4 for 96 and then 5 for 38. Still a good PPR play. I do like him against that weak Kansas City defense. Demaryius Thomas, at least 5 catches each week, 5 for 63 last week. Certainly not what he was with Peyton Manning when he was getting 14 touchdowns, but still a serviceable wide receiver 2/3 guy. That's not where you drafted him, but he's been okay in PPR. Rest of season, Mike, who are you taking, Sanders or Demaryius Thomas?
Sanders. I've been on that bus all season long. I like the production that he's been getting. He's been getting the target share. You can really tell Case Keenum loves throwing his direction.
Lucas, what about you?
It's Emmanuel Sanders, without a doubt in my mind.
I want to say Demaryius Thomas, but I think I'm leaning towards Sanders here. All right, let's get into our Flex Those Muscles segment. All right, guys, I got 10 questions here. These are all guys who people will have questions. Do I flex this guy or this guy? All right, so for these ones, Lucas, just to make it quick, you'll answer first, and Mike, you'll answer second. Starting it off here, the topic of this week's great debate, Geronimo Allison or Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley.
I think I'm going to go with Allison. Allen Robinson or Marvin Jones?
Close. Marvin Jones.
Allen Robinson.
I'm taking Marvin Jones. Cole Beasley or Tyler Boyd?
Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd.
Same. Keelan Cole or Will Fuller?
Will Fuller.
Fuller.
Yep, same here. Jay Ajayi or Devonta Freeman if both play?
Devonta Freeman.
Same for me. Mike, what about you? I didn't hear yours.
Yeah, Devonta Freeman. I said it at the same time as Lucas.
Gotcha. Tyler Lockett or Mike Williams?
Mike Williams.
Same.
Mike Williams to me as well. Sammy Watkins or Ted Ginn?
Ted Ginn.
Ted Ginn if I'm looking for ceiling.
I like it. I think I'm going to go with Ginn as well. Marshawn Lynch or Chris Carson?
Carson this week.
Same. Chris
against the Arizona Cardinals, which are terrible.
You don't like Marshawn against the Browns?
The Browns defense is actually pretty good, but the Arizona Cardinals have given up the most points to running backs this season.
I streamed the Browns defense in 7 of my 12 leagues last week, and they got me like 9 to 11 points depending on scoring. They outperformed their projection. That was pretty good.
Yep. That's not bad.
And I'm leaving them in there in most of those leagues too. Moving on here, Larry Fitzgerald or Quincy Enunwa? Enunwa's got the Jags. Don't forget that.
I'm going to go Fitz.
Same here.
I think I'm going to go Fitz.
Fitz for me as well. Last one here, Chris Godwin or Kenny Golladay? This might be the toughest one.
Chris Godwin.
Golladay all day.
Not against my Cowboys.
I like Godwin as well. All right, guys, let's move to our Streamer Wire segment here. We've each got a quarterback and a tight end, and we're going to do like a little snake thing here. I'm going to kick it off. My quarterback, stream of the week, Baker Mayfield. He's 40% owned. I'm surprised it's only 40%, but I do like him this week going against the Raiders. Probably going to have a lot of momentum going into that game. A lot of hype around him. I like Mayfield. Mike, what about your quarterback?
My quarterback of the week is Joe Flacco. I just like this guy when he plays the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's just always been serviceable to me in that situation. He's only 26% owned, I believe. So get him out there. Go pick him up.
Lucas.
Case Keenum. This is one of the highest over-unders this week by Vegas odds, and I think that it's going to be a shootout. The Kansas City defense is terrible. I expect us to see an uptick for all of the receiving options, especially with the tight end Butt getting hurt today.
Well, let's snake back. Tight end. Who's your streaming tight end?
Ooh, Todd Gurley just caught a touchdown. Thank you.
Man, I can't wait to turn the game on here. We're almost done.
My streaming tight end is Dallas Goedert this week. Wentz seemed to love him a lot. I think that they're going to run more 2 tight end sets. He caught 7 for 7 targets and a touchdown last week. I think that he gets open a lot because all of the other options there take a lot of the focus.
Mike.
My guy is Antonio Gates. He's seen an uptick in production, especially in the red zone. I think this team will be in the red zone a lot. I think Antonio Gates scores for you this weekend. 5% owned.
Yeah, there's a reason. And my streaming tight end is Ricky Seals-Jones, only 22% owned right now. I do think he's got a chance to get in the end zone. Bunch of catches for you with Josh Rosen. That is going to wrap it up for this week's show, guys. Hey, are you guys ready to go watch this game?
Yeah.
Sounds like you're watching
it. Yeah, I'm watching it.
Well, I am ready to go watch this game. So we're going to wrap up the show here. Guys, please go to sleeperwire.com. Check out our site. You can submit a question to the Sleeper Wire crew. You can also check out our weekly rankings. It's a combination of myself, Dirty Jobs, and Prophet Hoos each week. Those are going to be available tomorrow. Follow us on Twitter at SleeperWire Show, at SleeperWire LBB. That's Lucas. Mike is on there at DirtyJobs21, and I am on there at Prof_Chris SW. You can follow us on SleeperBot as well at SleeperWire LBB, Dirty Jobs, and Professor Chris. And then the Fantasy Life app at Dirty Jobs and Professor Chris. Mike, Lucas, thanks for joining me. And everybody else, catch you next week.